Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Noon. I am here with the Buckeye Grove Rapid Reaction Podcast after an Ohio State 45-21 win over Florida Atlantic here on Saturday. Buckeyes came out strong, had some moments that they didn't look so good, but, a win is a win, and as Ryan Day put it, it's tough to get to be 1-0, and they got to 1-0. I'm joined with our interns, with Braden Moles and Keaton Masano. Braden, how are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
No, doing great. And Keaton, yourself?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Doing great. All right, let's just kind of start right off the bat and just jump right into it. Initial thoughts on the game, just coming right out of it. Braden, you first.
Just a lot of positive takeaways. I mean, there were obviously some struggles in the second quarter and second half with the offense, but in general, it looked like the team was playing a lot faster. It looked like they were playing with a lot more heart. So I think moving forward, there's going to be a lot of good takeaways from this game for the future.
Keaton, jump on in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of positives as well, but I think it's also a coach's dream, this kind of game. You get to see a lot of things go well, so you build confidence, but there's a lot of things to work on, especially when the offense kind of lulled a little bit and the way the defense kind of took their foot off the gas pedal in the end. So I think there's a lot of things to coach upon, and I think that's really good for Ryan Day in his first game.
Right, as Ryan Day mentioned in the post game about they ran 74 plays. He would have loved to have 174 plays. I'm not sure his team would feel the same way, but 237 yards on the ground, 232 through the air. I mean, that's as close to 50-50 as you can get without being on it after a season of really seeing them much more weighted to the pass than the run. 48 attempts. I mean, granted, there was a good amount of garbage time at the end where, you just wanted to kind of take the air out of the ball a little bit. But I think the first thing that people are going to want to talk about is Justin Fields.
Overall, I think a really great outing for him his first time around. I mean, there were obviously some, like we mentioned, and we'll bring up later with the kind of offensive lull in the second half. But I mean, that can be attributed a little bit to the line. But obviously, there were some not freshman mistakes. Sorry, but as his first start, there were some mistakes. With the lateral pass that was a little off target. But overall, I think a lot of great things to take away. I mean, that offensive blitz in the first 4 drives, he looked comfortable in the pocket when it was clean. So I think, like Keaton had mentioned, I think there's a lot of coachable moments from this. So there will be a lot good going forward for Day and Fields.
And then I also think it was a great start for him, good way to build some confidence. But I don't think we got to really see how he's going to react with a better defense, because a lot of those throws were wide open and that run was wide open. I mean, we knew this kid was talented coming in, so he was able to show us all those tools he's got in his tool bag, but I still haven't seen him be able to make the decisions and make the tight throws, so that's something we'll see coming forward. But yeah, I think that's a great start as far as confidence goes, and that's what you kind of want to do when you're getting your first start. Get put some points on the board, have a good outing, and I think he'll build upon that, but I do not think we've seen the best of him yet.
Exactly, but when he comes right out, I mean, we're not even 2 minutes into the game, 51-yard touchdown run, something that nobody had an opportunity to see during spring ball because he was wearing a black jersey and couldn't run the ball. A couple of touchdown passes to tight ends, to Jeremy Ruckert. I mean, a whole new world that we're witnessing there. I mean, but something else, too. You sit there and you look at the score and you see that FAU scored 21 points, but honestly, 15 of them were in the fourth quarter, and it kind of just started to roll downhill after they brought in the second team. Would you sit there and say that the defense is making large gains at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think they look well improved over. I mean, we were even mentioning during the game, it's a lot of the slants. Last season, if those passes are completed, that's a touchdown. That's what would happen last season, but. This was a lockdown defense, especially the first team defense through the first couple of quarters. So looks like they're playing a lot harder and a lot faster this year.
Well, even like you said, the 15 points in the fourth quarter, they also gave 3 points because of the fumble the offense had. So, I mean, defense being able to hold to a field goal there was a win for them. And I think just what I noticed most, the biggest difference from last year was the speed of these guys. They seem to be moving with a purpose and moving to the ball, and they're in the right spots, and they're making tackles, which they didn't always do last year. And I think it's a great start. I think Baron Browning stuck out to me, Malik Harrison, just guys who are able to make plays, and I think hopefully that continues for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, exactly. Just the activity of the defense. They had 4 sacks, 12 TFLs in the game. Chase Young credited with 1.5. We had some posters on the board who took a little bit of issue with that, thought he should have been at 2, 2.5. I'm not the official scorer. Don't bring it up with me. But, I think that it was really interesting to see just how active they were, the speed. I mean, they just looked very confident in the defense as well. I probably wouldn't have guessed that it would have been Josh Proctor that would have had the interception at the end of the game, but he's just as talented as everybody else. I mean, they've got a lot of depth out there. Jordan Fuller led the team with seven tackles. I don't know if we really had an opportunity to sit there and say, oh, well, we know what the bullet is all about now. I mean, we sat there in the first couple series. They had Sean Wade off the field. They had Brendan White and Pete Werner in. In the third series, Wade was out there. I mean, there are a lot of things going on where on the depth chart, they have it listed as 3 corners. They don't have Sam, Will, and Mike necessarily listed in the linebackers. So you're just kind of wondering how the pieces are going to work. Everything wasn't exactly perfect. We'll get to that in a second, but I first want to thank one of our premier sponsors. Hague Water Conditioning has been treating well in city water in Central Ohio with American-made water filtration products for over 60 years. Have a water quality problem? The water treatment experts at Hague know how to solve it. Not sure if your water softener is working? They will test, inspect, and sanitize any brand of water softener for only $20. Schedule a system checkup or water test today by calling 614-836-2195 or visit them online at HagueH2O.com. That's HagueH2O.com. Now that we paid some bills, let's jump into maybe some of the things that didn't necessarily go right. The offense scored on its first 4 drives and then really was dormant for a while. Braden, what were your thoughts on the slowdown?
So Day alluded to this in his press conference. When you score 4 touchdowns in the first 8 or so minutes of the game, you're inevitably going to have a moment where you kind of take a breath, look at what you've been doing, and that gives the defense time to catch up, take a look at what you've been doing, and take their own deep breath and kind of get into the groove of things. So I think that quick start actually ended up causing a bit of those issues with, you're not getting the 51-yard run from Fields on every single play. So you have to get a little more innovative with the play calling to keep things moving. And I think another issue there is, once you're up 28-0, you don't necessarily want to be pulling all of your rabbits out of the hat yet. You don't want to be showing, Cincinnati, who's coming up next week, you don't want to start showing them all of the plays in your book if you're already up 28-0. So you may get a little more conservative with your play calling at that point.
Something that I saw, and I'll throw it to Keaton here in a second too, was it really looked at times, and it was asked in the post game if Justin was maybe instructed not to tuck and run as much. I mean, on the reads, I mean, he definitely jumped in on it with what his thoughts were on it. What were your thoughts on it, Keaton?
Well, I think kind of going back to what Braden said, I think when you jump out to that early lead, I think you maybe lose a little bit of focus, a little bit of your edge, and I think the first thing that goes with that is your offensive line. I think the offensive line, the first 4 series, they won't get any of the publicity, but they were the reason that Justin Fields was able to sit back there and wait for his wide receivers to get open and his tight ends. So I think they really lost that edge, and they lost their push, weren't able to run the ball effectively. J.K. Dobbins kind of hit a snag in the second and third quarter, weren't able to move the ball at all. But I think that even though Justin Fields won't admit to it, he said he was making the right reads on the handoff. I think there is that thing in the back of your mind, back of the coach's mind, like, we've got this game wrapped up. Let's not lose this season trying to make the right reads and make him more susceptible to injuries. So I think that's definitely in the back of their minds. So I think that probably played a part of it as well. And also, it's the first game of the season. I mean, there's going to be lulls. They're not perfect yet, so, yeah.
Right. I mean, you can sit there and you can see there's some teams that people thought were going to win that are sitting at 0-1 right now. But it is that interesting conundrum that they're in. You want to get Justin Fields as much seasoning as you can, but you also know that there's just not much depth that's experienced at this point behind him. You don't want to put yourself in a position to where you're having to figure out in week 2 how to do it with a quarterback who, either in Chugginoff, who has just seen a little spot duty, or with Gunnar Hoke, who was in the Kentucky system just a few short months ago. So, it's difficult at that point. But, we're going to see the level of competition go up a decent amount, in my opinion, because we're going to see Cincinnati coming to town.
So with Cincinnati, it's obviously going to be a more challenging opponent than Florida Atlantic is, so I think in terms of the defense, they just need to keep doing what they're doing. They were forcing turnovers, they were getting stops, so I think the message from Day to them is just going to be, keep doing what you're doing, we'll force those turnovers, we're going to get those stops. Offensively, you're going to need to fix that wall that happened. You can't have 7 straight drives where you're only getting 77 total yards. that you can't do that against a better opponent like Cincinnati. So I think you're going to have to fix that, as well as the pass protection with Fields that kind of collapsed in the second half that led to him making some bad decisions. So there's a lot of positives from this game that you can take into the next game, but there's also some stuff Buckeyes are going to have to work on.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's really going to be more of a challenge for Ohio State's offense. They're going to play sound. They're not going to make those mental errors, the breakdowns in the secondary that you were seeing from FAU. They're going to make you earn your points. And if Ohio State can just play a sound game, keep it clean, UCLA couldn't do that. They turned the ball over way too many times. So Ohio State's going to have to play a clean game, play their game, and they'll probably have to move the ball down the field, have longer drives, which we saw a little bit towards the end of the game, but the early first 4 possessions were quick strikes. So the offense will be tested against Cincinnati. I think the defense, if they continue what they were doing this game, I think they'll have no problem being able to hold Cincinnati down. I'm not expecting a shootout from them. That's just not their identity. So I think it'll be a good test for the Ohio State's offense, but I think it's a good progression and a step towards some of the tougher tests in the Big Ten down the road.
Right, Michael Warren got a little banged up in that game, but he returned. Cincinnati's going to be without one of their better defenders. Cincinnati, I really think, is a team that is going to try and take away the run from Ohio State. That might be a difficult undertaking, but with that being said, I think that we saw some really good passing out of Justin Fields, 18 of 25 today, 234 and 4 touchdowns. It's going to be a game that I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to. Well, that's about it as we call this rapid reaction, so we don't want to go on and on. Keep it locked in over at BuckeyeGrove.com, and be sure to listen to the Unscripted Ohio Podcast Network for all of the podcast needs that you have for Ohio State, and now we're adding a Cleveland Browns show too. Exciting times. I'm Kevin Noon, your host, and thank you for listening.